So I really got to hand it to Chrystia Freeland because she was on her A game this week. And often when her, or even the Prime Minister, when they're on their A game, it's a solid political A game because their frame is very strong. They manage to make an issue sound exactly how they want it to sound like. And it doesn't matter what the reality is or what the message might even say. If you think really deeply about it, on the face of it, sounds great, and so they say it. And so this is what happened on BNN this week.
Spending on the government's part to get the economy going. What might that look like? Can you give us any detail?
Well, it's great to be with you, Amanda. And I want to thank you, first of all, for really zeroing in on the preloaded stimulus idea. None of us have a crystal ball, but economists like Ben, like Doug, have been pointing out that some Canadian households, and it tends to be the better off households, do have quite a lot of money that they've saved because there hasn't been that much to do in the pandemic. And certainly it would be great if that money could go towards driving our recovery. And I want to make an offer now to all of your listeners. If people have ideas on how the government can act to help unlock that preloaded stimulus, I am very, very interested.
She basically talked about Canada's recovery. And the concerning part was that she talked about Canadian savings as preloaded stimulus, right? She said that Canadian households, the better off ones, which obviously springs to mind words like the haves and the have-nots, the elites, the 1%, but the better off households do have quite a lot of money that they saved, and certainly it would be great if that money could go towards driving our economy. All right, so, on the face of it, she's right. If people now decide to make purchases that they've been putting off because of COVID, that money will then help drive the economy. The businesses will, get additional profits and may be able to bring employees back to work. There may be more demand for their services, et cetera, et cetera. And so on the face of it, that's pretty great. But the concerning part is, number one, how she talked about that the best case scenario is for them to use this preloaded stimulus. So, okay, the best case scenario is for people to just start spending what they haven't been spending because of COVID. Sure. But what do you mean by best case scenario, right? What does that really mean? It leaves the door open to what if there's a worst case scenario, right? The worst case scenario is this is not happening. And so the government's going to do something, right? Is that what we're saying here, right? People don't necessarily think about that. They're just, oh yeah, no, it would be great if people started spending. Yeah, it would be great. Okay, but what if they don't though? Right? What if they don't? So that leaves the door open. Again, she didn't imply anything in this particular clip. She didn't say anything. She talked about, we need to find ways of unleashing savings and supporting tourism and hospitality services, etc. That, it's all generic stuff. So I'm not saying she even implied anything. I'm saying she left the door open. And she's really got to clarify. The second part, though, and possibly even the more scary part, is referring to things as preloaded stimulus. Now, this speaks directly to something that I think a lot of people forget about government, and that's in the fact that government has no way to generate its own revenue. They generate its own income, aside from taxing you. The government is not a business. It cannot create wealth out of nowhere. The government simply takes wealth from one pocket and puts it into another pocket. And so when you talk about Canadian savings, again, this is assuming that this is money. And if it is money, right, liquid cash money that people have worked for, so they've already paid their income taxes and whatever other taxes they paid on it, right? It may also be stocks or something that is not accessible, but that's an entirely different point. But referring to this as stimulus really reveals the fact that she either doesn't care that the government cannot do this, or she's just riding roughshod over it because the government has no way to generate its own money. So even stimulus that is not coming from this preloaded sector, right, to the savings, it's still going to be someone's money. It's going to be taxes. It's going to be moved from one place to another. Right? It's almost akin to the Prime Minister saying that, the government took on the debt so Canadians don't have to. But the government is just an amalgam of the collective, that it's sort of the service operator that does things that we want it to do. The government itself doesn't have any money. It doesn't generate its own money, aside from taking it from individuals. So that's, I think, the most concerning part of this, because referring to Canadian savings as preloaded stimulus, it on one hand is insulting, but it really just reveals that that's what government is. And that's, I guess, either how she views government or, just the way to understand government, but it's going to go over people's head because people tend to forget that government has no way to get its own money aside from taking from one group and giving it to another group. And again, it's not necessarily bad, but if you've already paid taxes on that money, you've already, you put that money in the bank, if we're going to start raiding people's piggy banks, it doesn't create a lot of confidence in the economy. That is actually one of the most important drivers for economic recovery. Having a stable system where that laws are not going to change, right? People want to invest in a country that is free of corruption, that they know that there is not going to be suddenly laws change. There's not going to be any weird, legal, political wrangling on their head suddenly, that they can forecast 5, 10, 20 years down the road. That's what drives economic recovery, not telling people that, well, we hope in best case scenario you spend your money. So, good on her. Strong message, especially it'll play to her political base. I think people need to keep in mind a couple of these things. Like I said, the fact that government has no way to generate its own money. It simply redistributes wealth. And that's not necessarily a negative thing, but we just need to be cognizant of that fact. And look, we need to make sure that we're paying attention to what she's saying and we're not just caught up by some of the buzzwords or the face value stuff. These are people that run the country. We hope that they would run it well, right? We don't always have faith in all the people that run a country. It doesn't even matter what party they're from, but we hope that they would run it well because it's ultimately for the benefit of all Canadians. And that's what I'm here for, right? That's what I'm here to bring that awareness and talk about these issues for the benefit of all Canadians. And so, in that spirit, for True North, I am Sam Eskenasi. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also hit that notification bell so you can always stay on top of the latest videos from True North. So thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a good one.